Welcome to a 10-1-10-1 review. My name is Nessa and today we're talking about Everafter Falls and how I felt after playing the game for 10 minutes, 1 hour, 10 hours, and 1 year in-game. As a person who does not have a lot of time to play games, I think that first impressions are super important, and the first 10 minutes and an hour of a game should give you the basic rundown of what the game has to offer. That being said, I also know that cozy games in the farming and life sim genre can have slow starts, lengthy tutorials, and might just take some time to shine, which is why I think reviewing my experience at 10 hours and a year in game is also important. Because how I feel at the 1 hour mark might be completely different than my experience at 10 hours, and that could change dramatically again after I go through 1 year in-game. I won't be rating Everafter Falls on a scale, but we'll definitely talk about my experience and what I liked and wished it did differently. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Everafter Falls is a farming life sim game that was developed by Square Husky and released on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and the Nintendo Switch on June 20th, 2024. I played the PC version, so my review will be based on the experiences that I had on PC. The game currently retails for $19.99 on all platforms. In Everafter Falls, you can farm, fish, collect forageables and a variety of different critters, and fight to restore peace to the land. You can instruct your trusty pet and army of drones and pixies to farm and collect materials for you, while you craft, fish, and catch bugs to fill out your museum collections, and dungeon delve for rare items and ores. You can also play with another person in split-screen co-op. However, I did not use this feature, so my review will be of the single-player experience only. You are a person who has been in the Earth simulation for a year and now are just waking up again in your home of Everafter Falls. You don't remember your animal friends or what you were doing, but the villagers are patient as you slowly get your memories back. While you're shaking off your amnesia, there's also a looming threat lurking in the dungeons. At the time of this review, I have not completed the main story, which I consider to be figuring out what's going on with the dungeons and the story behind what one of the villagers might have done to jeopardize everyone's lives. First 10 minutes, I was able to customize my character before starting the game. You can use the color picker to mix and match your character and pet, and I spent a few minutes making sure my character looked how I wanted. Right away, you're treated to quite a tragic cutscene of yourself getting hit by a car and waking up from the Earth simulation you were in. You're introduced, or rather reintroduced, to Dog and Finn, and they try to reacclimate you back to your real life in Everafter Falls. Right away, I noticed the cute 2D portraits, which are fun and expressive. The dialogue is also quirky and breaks the fourth wall a bit with mentions of other farming and life sim games. After the short opening, you're given a sword, an axe, and a pickaxe, and then basically left to your own devices. There is an overlay on how to move, but nothing else pops up, and I'm not forced to really go anywhere specific. Dog does give me a letter from Daisy Duck, who asks me to come to her shop so that I could pick up my pet. So I chop down some grass and head over to visit Daisy. The pet tutorial starts once you pick up your pet, and you have a chance to practice during the tutorial on how to give commands. The other tutorials in towns are on signs and in quests, but not as involved as the pet one. After walking around town for a bit, my 10 minutes were quickly over. During the 1 hour, I realized that the game did not use stamina, and I had the freedom to chop, mine, and cut as many things that I could cram into one day. This was really refreshing because the stamina system in other farming games can be a little punishing in the beginning, where you're unable to do much since stamina often runs out very fast. Additionally, my pet was able to farm for me, so I could spend time chopping down trees or doing other tasks while it tilled my fields and watered my plants. I was introduced to the crafting during this time, and it's relatively simple as you can craft other items as long as you have the materials in your inventory, or if you were standing next to a chest that had those materials available. I made my fishing rod and bug net and started to collect critters for the museum. The fishing minigame is different than the other ones I've seen so far. It involves stopping two wheels so that the opening is facing upward so that when the hook drops, it will go directly to the fish. It's pretty hard hard in the beginning, but I was able to get the hang of it after an hour of playing. Just note that the fishing minigame can be turned off in the settings if you do not want to play it, and later on in my playthrough, I was able to get modifications for my fishing rods that made the minigame much easier. The bug catching mechanic, on the other hand, does not have a minigame. It's relatively easy to just go up to a bug and catch it. Another thing that I was introduced to was the cards and the ability to eat cards so that I can gain whatever power up it gives me. The first card I got was between having the ability to sleep an hour later or guaranteed rain every 6 days. Although the rain card was very tempting, I did go for the extended sleep since I figured that I would be able to cram more things with the extra hour. I was able to make it to around 4 p.m. on day 4 before my 1 hour time was up. I ended up finding a goal to focus on since the animal villagers will give you quests to complete when you see them around town. Additionally, I wanted to craft a furnace to smelt ores, and I was consistently donating all my new creatures and forgeables to the museum. After 1 hour, I was still very excited to continue playing. I was having a good time exploring around town and getting myself acclimated to the gameplay loop. There were still so many things to collect and quests to do that it felt very natural to go right into my 10 hours. I ended up on the 11th of fall after 10 hours, which is about a season and almost halfway through another, since you start in the summer instead of the spring in this game. During this time, I unlocked the portal to enter my first dungeon. The dungeon is randomly generated each day you go in. However, if you clear a room, then the door will remain open, so you can go through any cleared doors the next time without having to defeat all of the enemies again. I found copper and iron in the dungeons to upgrade my tools to make them more effective, and treasure rooms which have the chance to give accessories, seeds, and materials. Accessories have stat bonuses such as being able to attack faster, so they're definitely something that I was excited to see whenever they dropped. In addition, you can find these trapped creatures that will grant you a power-up whenever you save them, and a duck that drops random items if you defeat it before it runs away. The dungeon enemies are a variety of low-level slimes, spiders, crabs, and flying bugs at this stage, so they're not too hard to defeat after you level up a bit. In the beginning, it did pose a challenge to get through a few rooms before I would have to go back home and restore my health, but the more I explored and found power-ups, the longer I was able to stay in the dungeons. I actually had such a good time in the dungeons and didn't feel bored at all while I was exploring due to the randomness of the rooms and also the chance of getting a really great reward. I defeated my first boss after many hours of exploring, and that gave me another rune key that will unlock another dungeon. During my 10-hour mark, I wasn't able to unlock the second dungeon, but I found myself really eager to unlock it due to how fun the system was for me. I was also introduced to drones during my 10 hours. I bought a support drone from Sid's shop and programmed it to be an attacker so that it will automatically attack enemies when I'm in the dungeons, but there were other uses that you can choose instead when you buy it. I did quests for some of the villagers and got my hands on 2 water drones that will water a 3x3 plot on my farm, which is super helpful since my pet can water, but overall it is a slow process and it can only queue up so many things at one time. There are also drone parts that you can attach to make the drones better, but I wasn't able to get the upgrade during my 10 hours since I didn't have the necessary materials to craft the attachments. Drones operate automatically after you equip them or place them, so they're a great addition to help you out, and I spent many hours trying to get the materials to make more water drones. There's also a quest that I had access to in order to get a drone part from one of the villagers for free, but unfortunately I wasn't able to find that very specific frog that the villager wanted during this time. Speaking of villagers, although you can't give them any items like other farming games to increase their relationship levels, they still have different personalities and stories. I helped a few of them with random quests, and they have cutscenes that you can sometimes trigger to get to know them better. They're a quirky bunch of animals and definitely more mature than other villagers in other games, as they flirt with each other, curse, get annoyed. Since I don't have to talk to them on the daily or give them any gifts to increase our friendship, I do feel like my relationship with everyone is a bit shallow, despite them telling me how close we were before I entered the Earth simulation and came back. In my experience, the 10-hour mark is where the grind starts to set in, and although I did have to go to the dungeon multiple times to gather ores or just gather materials and process them to craft items and machine that I needed, I was having a really good time through it all and was very eager to continue playing. I reached my second year after 31 hours of playing the game. At this point, my farm was pretty much automated, as I had about 6 water drones with attachments to make them more powerful. My pet also was able to queue up quite a number of tasks around the farm, so if I had any farming things to do, I could queue it up and then go off on my merry way to do other things. I bought a number of different animals that included chicken, ducks, cow, an alpaca, and some red thing that I'm not too sure what it is. Money was steady, and it was mainly focused on completing collections at the museum or trying to advance in the story. I think that if I had one more season, I would have probably been able to complete the rest of the dungeon. Overall, after a year in game, here are some things that I liked and wish that it did differently. Here are some things that I liked. The randomness of the dungeons and the potential to find treasure chests and treasure ducts really encouraged me to explore. I love that the whole dungeon does not reset and will keep your progress for which rooms you have cleared, and only the layout will change the next day. So you'll still have the ability to run through rooms you previously cleared without having to fight all of the monsters again. This makes advancing in the dungeons feel way less tedious than other games, and the exploration is really fun since there are high rewards from it. I like the accessories that you can find with different stat boosts. Increasing movement speed, attack power, and luck have helped me so much with being able to survive in the dungeons, and also getting around town faster or having the chance to get an extra item from being lucky. Some accessories that I could find also had orb spots where I could attach even more stats onto them, which makes it really customizable in terms of what builds I was focusing on. The system is simple enough where you don't really have to do a lot of calculating, but it's also very impactful to the gameplay. I like all the different ways that the game gives you to automate grindy tasks, in addition to having a pet which you can order to till the soil, water, sell your goods, teleport you, and even attack and heal you in the dungeons. You can craft watering and harvesting drones to automate everything on your farm. You can also catch pixies to harvest resources from rocks and trees sustainably, and they will deposit the resources in a chest for you daily without you having to go back and visit them unless you want to move them somewhere else. I really enjoyed the seasonal events since there are so many cute mini games and awesome prizes. I explored mazes, caught butterflies, bet on a rigged penguin and snowman race, and did other fun things to rack up points that I could use to spend on different machines or items. I found myself looking forward to these events since the rewards were always so good and the minigames themselves were pretty entertaining. I like the different cutscene events that the animal villagers would have with one another. The events didn't seem to be very random in the sense that they would trigger after I complete a part of the main quest or a quest that the villager gave me. However, they do expand more on the relationships that the animals have with each other and also me, the main character. Here are some things that I would recommend. I definitely recommend getting the card that gives your pet the ability to sell things into the deposit box as soon as possible. The inventory system in this game is pretty limited, and there are no options that I found during my playthrough to expand it, so having the ability to free it up a bit is so important. I didn't get this card until my last season, and it was super helpful to me on days where I would be fishing a lot, so I can only imagine that this would have been super helpful in the earlier seasons. Donating to the museum and completing collections will give you credit, which you'd redeem for a card. Things that have not been donated are marked with a blue star, so you can quickly see whether or not it's a new item. I definitely recommend donating everything that you can, with the exception of the moonflowers, since only one blooms per season, and you will need it as an ingredient for the main story-related quests. Luckily, the museum will warn you if you try to donate it. Here are some things that I wish were different. My inventory is pretty small in this game, and I find myself running back and forth to all my chests to deposit items fairly frequently. I know that there are cards to increase your pet's inventory and also give them the ability to go to the deposit box to sell your items, but I would still love at least another inventory slot for my player that they can purchase or upgrade. I could go fishing and fill up my inventory in an instant depending on how many different types of fish that I'm lucky enough to catch. I could also fill up my inventory extremely extremely fast whenever I meet a treasure duck in the dungeons, and then have to stop all my progress by going back and sorting through everything that I got from it. Another thing with the inventory system is that the chests have all these cool sorting features, but there are no helpful tooltips or mouse over text that appear when you click on one, so I had to click on all of them and figure out what they do. I definitely think that this could be improved by just adding some text so the players know what they're clicking. I'm not a big fan of the bottles in this game. They're made from refining iron ores and quartz. In order to make anything jarred, such as mayonnaise or honey, I would need to have the ingredient in addition to a bottle available. I understand the intention, but it's just a bit cumbersome for me to have the extra step to get a processed item, so I found myself foregoing making the items unless I really needed them for something because I didn't want to carry an extra bottle in my limited inventory. I wish there were more furniture and decorating options. There are a few paths options and fences that you can craft. You can also buy furniture from Sid's shop. However, he only stocks one of each item, so if you want a set of 4 chairs, you'll have to hope that he's selling the same chairs again another day and buy them. You can also get plushies of animal villagers in town, but you cannot put them where you want because the smaller items need to be on a surface, so you'll have to buy a table or a shelf. I wish that the animal villager relationships were a little bit more impactful. I didn't feel the need to really get to know anybody well during my playthrough, even though I loved all their little events and side quests. There were seasons where I barely talked to some animals, since I didn't run into them when I was out and about. I'm pretty sure I only talked to Calvin the fisherman for his quest, and haven't actually talked to him outside of that. The animals, however, are really cute, and I love the expressiveness in their portraits, so I wish that I did have a little bit of a closer relationship with them. The animals that you can buy for your farm in this game are pretty much self-reliant, and I found myself not really caring about them as much either. They were there to provide me a product such as eggs or milk, and they didn't really need me to pet or feed them unless I wanted to give them their favorite food for another product. They were pretty to look at, but overall I viewed them more as decoration for my farm rather than something I had to take care of every day. At this time, I definitely do want to keep playing to finish the last dungeon and see what happens afterwards. This game has different map layouts for your farm when you first start, and also a hard mode and co-op mode, so there are a variety of different ways to continue playing if you want to start over. This game gives me the one more day feeling where I just have to keep going, and it hasn't been particularly difficult or grindy to me since I played on normal mode. I would definitely recommend the game if you like exploring dungeons and also finding treasure to the backdrop of having a farm and growing crops to make money that you can fund for projects such as upgrading your tools with the ores that you find in the dungeon, buying animals and cards, or upgrading and building things such as your house, barn, or greenhouse. There's plenty of things to do, and the automations make it quite helpful so you're not focused mainly on your farm once you get everything set up and running. I did have a lot of time in the beginning where I was more active in managing my farm, and I had to stand there and wait for my pet to finish watering since I couldn't do it myself. However, it felt so satisfying as I got more upgrade cards and drones so that I barely had to manage it after a while. This game does go from more farming simulation in the beginning to more dungeon delving in the later stages. However, I really enjoyed the transition, and you really don't have to do any of the automations if that's not your thing. The great part about it is playing the way that you want to play, so if you want to use your pet to actively water all of your crops, then you can definitely do that. You can also play the game without going into the dungeon if you don't like fighting enemies or having the stress of final boss encounters. That is possible, but I do think that your crafting potential is limited because a lot of the items do require materials that you can only get from going into the dungeon. Along with the museum that needs to be filled and animal villagers with different quests, there's plenty of things to do in Everafter Falls to keep you occupied. Well, there you have it. If you think this game is for you, I hope you give it a try. Let me know in the comments if you've already played Everafter Falls or if you're leaning towards trying it out now. If you like what I do and want to see more, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. Until next time, I have been Nessa, and this has been a 10-1-10-1.